First of all, thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here to present Bob Pleticha as an inductee into the Elgin Sports Hall of Fame. Also, congratulations to all the inductees. You know, one of the things I've noticed is that I know quite a few of the inductees from one capacity or another. And the great thing about this is that the common thread is it's what they give back to the community and to the youth. And that's just an incredible thing. And if there were more people like that in the world, think how great things would be. Having said that, let's talk about Bob Pleticha. So, every inductee or honoree possesses something special that sets them apart from other athletes. It isn't only the extraordinary skills that they are blessed with, rather, it is how they attain the high level of excellence, their journey that brought them or their teams to their destination. It could have been the influence of another person who inspired and encouraged them and guided them. Perhaps it was a life-changing event that was a catalyst in providing the drive and determination. Or their motivation to excel came from others not believing in them, driving one to prove that they were wrong. For Bob Pleticha, it could have been any one of those mentioned. In his youth, Bob and his sister, the two oldest children of 4, were sent away to an orphanage because the financial burden on their mother was too much for her to bear. His father had deserted their family. Bob's father was very abusive. At one point, Bob defiantly told his father, "You better watch out, because someday I'm going to be bigger than you are and stronger." How prophetic that statement was. It was in the fall of 1968 at what is now known as Judson University that I first met Bob Pleticha. My first impression was not good. To me, an upperclassman at the time found this boastful freshman not only arrogant, already proclaiming himself the greatest, not to mention irritating, abrasive, and rebellious. That was something from the 60s, of course. It was obvious to me that he would not last very long at Judson. My experience as an athlete on the basketball court taught me that anyone who thought that highly of themselves usually was the only one. I would learn right away that Bob Pleticha was the exception. He proved many times over the years that he could back up those bold claims. I would also learn that not only did he have a heart of a champion, Bob also had a heart as big as the world. Did he ever? His drive to excel at anything was unparalleled. Upon returning home from serving in the Army as a medic in Vietnam, Bob enrolled at Judson. In addition to financial aid from the GI Bill, he worked in the night shifts at the Jewel and National Food stores, as well as on Judson's maintenance department, cleaning various buildings on campus. Perhaps some of you encountered Bob at the popular warehouse watering hole on Lawrence Avenue. If you did, you knew to stay on his good side. In between classes at Judson and his various jobs, Bob also managed to get in some lengthy weight training workouts at the good old Channing Y. Because he could not afford the gas to drive back to his mother's home in Villa Park, he often slept in his car. I think it was a 63 Chevy convertible, right, Bob? Yeah. Or on cold nights, he slept on the lounge in the Volkman Hall, in the residence hall. Somehow he even managed to participate in wrestling and track at the urging of one of the coaches. After receiving his bachelor's degree in 1972, it was clear that Bob's career path would lead to a life as an elementary school teacher. At the time, Judson did not have an education department, so Bob attended classes at North Park College over the next 4 years. in order to complete the requirements of a teaching degree. He began his teaching career at Channing Elementary in Elgin, on the east side. Can you imagine the looks on the third grade students' faces on the first day of school in 1976 when they saw standing in front of them this big, big, big man, introducing himself as their teacher? In his early years at Channing, Bob saw a lack of direction in many of his students. They needed something to get them off the streets. So, from the streets to the track, the Elgin Sharks Club was formed in 1980. You could say that this was Mr. Pleticha's other classroom. With his encouragement and motivation, there was a sense of pride and accomplishment in many young people who until then never experienced much success until Coach P came into their lives, providing a more healthy lifestyle, both physically and mentally. What better role model could these young individuals have? For the first time in their young lives, there was a giant of a man who was not only a dedicated teacher, as well as a demanding yet caring coach, who just happens to be a world-class weightlifting champion. What better role model could they have? For those not familiar with powerlifting, it is comprised of the bench press, the squat, and the deadlift. Now, if I were to tell you that I had a teacher friend who taught third grade, who directed amazing theatrical productions with his third graders, who was an accomplished artist in many mediums, who collected butterflies and other bugs, who loved flower gardening and even exchanged gardening tips with my mother, and who cared for many creatures, including fish, doves, dogs, just to name a few. Would you imagine him benching 507 pounds, squatting 749 pounds, and deadlifting 699 pounds? Once you saw him, there would be no imagination needed. To attain these staggering amounts required training every other day for 5 hours. That's right, 5 hours. That is what it took to capture, get these numbers. I think they're in your programs. 15 National Powerlifting Championships, 3 National Intercollegiate Championships. The first one he won, I believe, was in 1972. I somewhat remember that because I got a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, because it was out in California where he was, and I was back in Elgin, waking me up. That was before cell phone times and all that. And all he said to me, "This is the greatest," and I won. And I'm like in a fog here trying to wake up, and is this a prank? Who is this? Well, I realized it was Bob Pleticha. Now, Bob won a trophy, and the trophy was probably bigger than he was. So much so, he didn't trust the baggage that he actually bought another ticket for his trophy to sit on the seat next to him. Do you still have that one, Bob? Yeah? So, 3 National Intercollegiate Championships and 4 World Masters Powerlifting Championships. 4. That's in the whole world. The crowning touch on an unbelievable weight training career in weightlifting culminated with Bob Pleticha being named one of the top 25 Supermen of the 20th century. Do you have a cape, Bob? I don't know, do you? And it was not in one class, but in 2 classes. 2 weight classes, the 242 weight class, and I believe it was the 275 weight class. In a song made famous, and I'm going to test your memory, some of you guys from back at this time in the 1970s, by singer-songwriter Jim Croce. You might remember, "You Don't Mess Around with Jim." You might remember some of those lyrics. And they could have been written with Coach P in mind. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit in the wind. You don't pull the mask off an old Lone Ranger. And you don't mess around with him. In closing, borrowing a quote from Albert Einstein, believe that everything happens for a reason. If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said it would be easy. They just promised that it would be worth it. Thank you, Bob Pleticha, for making it worth it, for changing thousands of lives. Congratulations on becoming a most deserving member of the Elgin Sports Hall of Fame. Come on up, Bob. You'll find that Bob is a man of few words. So.
I am honored to be inducted into the Elgin Sports Hall of Fame for my achievements in powerlifting, as well as being the founder and coach of the Elgin Sharks Track Club. I told you to be short.
I don't know if everybody's had a chance to turn around, but do you see what's in the back of this room in honor of Mr. Pleticha? Look at all of these people. There's got to be over 100 over there to see Mr. P go in. Thank you for coming out, the people in the back of the room to help him out.